Our lives are a string of insights, flashes of inspiration that can be the catalyst for new ideas. However, our pace of life these days means we tend to miss some of them completely. I'm Dave Hill, and I'm the host of the Simple Reflections podcast, a fortnightly series of interviews with people from all walks of life. Our conversations are an invitation to reflect on some of the simple insights my guests have had that have gone on to have a profound impact on their lives. So grab a cuppa and a biscuit, join us, slow down for a little while and see what shows up for you. Well, welcome to the next episode of the Simple Reflections podcast. I'm joined today by a good friend, Rob Cook, who's coming all the way from California. Rob is a fantastic storyteller, and I thought he'd be a great choice to have with us on this journey. He's a coach, he's a speaker, various different events. He's also a podcaster. He routinely runs the We're Listening podcast for the Three Principles Global Community. I'll put a link in to that later on. But he also interviews people on an ad hoc basis when he gets the wind for it. So he does put things out at other random times too. He's also a US Air Force veteran, and that's how we got introduced to each other, by wanting to try and help other veterans that are struggling with post-traumatic stress or whatever it happens to be, really. And he kindly gave up some time for a project I've been working on for a while called Missing in Action with a couple of friends. And he gave up an hour of his time for a conference that we ran in November 21. So, Rob, thank you so much for joining us. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you for having me, man. And I apologize off at the beginning on the raspiness of the voice, but getting over some kind of cold bug, but I think we're all right.
I think we'll work our way through it. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great to see you. It's been a while since we last chatted. I just wondered if there's anything going on in your world at the moment that's bringing joy to you in terms of insights, or whether there's anything particular that's jumped out at you over the years on an insight basis. Something that's really gripped you and gone, oh wow, that's interesting, and you haven't then really thought too much about it, but it's gone on and changed things dramatically for you.
Yeah. Coincidentally enough, it's around the topic that me and you first kind of met each other on, PTSD and trauma and things like that. And here recently, I've really been finding a groove with my work and helping people reclaim their life after trauma. And I think a large part of that, Dave, was first seeing that actually PTSD wasn't the problem. Mm-hmm. That was my response. That was, it made sense to abruptly turn my neck or look for loud sounds when they happened, given the environments of what I was, previously in. When a loud noise happened, it was catastrophic. And so it made sense. And so for a while I was battling with that then. So what is this disorder I'm so-called diagnosed with? What is this problem? And I remember seeing, oh, okay, I get what they're saying now. My disorder was that the behaviors that protected me in wartime, or protected me as an inner city kid, or protected me in gang violence, whatever it was, those I had been exposed to. So I was going to be sensitive to that. The disorder was the inability, though, when a loud noise that isn't danger happens, but my mind stays trapped in that place. Mm-hmm. And so it was almost like I started feeling like I'd learned how to time travel. It was like the stomach pit happens when I hear the noise, of course. But when I look and see, oh, a box fell, I come back to the moment. And it was like, oh, okay. I can be walking and I can hear somebody walking up on me very closely. Yeah, I would look. It makes sense to look, But if it's no danger, then it didn't make sense to stay in Iraq. It didn't make sense to stay in Afghanistan, in my mind. Mm-hmm. And that kind of cracked the ceiling for me. And I just began to see all kind of things, man, when it came to how people express that they're hurting and the cries for help. I start being able to hear the cry for help underneath the angry behaviors. Mm-hmm. I could see the wisdom in the numbness. not wanting to feel, and how possibly feeling all of those emotions at one time can overwhelm you. And it just really reshaped how I wanted to do my work in helping people reclaim their lives after trauma. And even the part, it came as a joke, but I remember saying on a call once that if trauma was a death sentence, we would have died.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the mere fact that we lived past the traumatic experience therein says there is life after trauma.
Yeah,
And it was just like, whoa. So yeah, it's just simplifying the work now, man. It's not as much to do. I'm starting to be able to see the well-being in everyone, even prior to sitting down. And I hear the first generation teachers talk about it all the time, seeing the health in our clients or in the people that are in front of us. And it's becoming super, super clear for me. And I'm really loving it.
That's cool. That's cool. I think what's fun in that is, again, it's a little bit like when we think that that's not true. I'm on show now, I really have to be on my game. And then no, that overwhelming feeling I'm having in the moment is pointing to the fact that I've got lost a little bit and they are okay. This one isn't an exception. I was speaking to Bill Pessett on Monday, and he was going, doing his normal spiel about the fact that, there's definitely an exception in here, and you're it. No, sorry, I've got that wrong. You aren't an exception, Joe. You're fine. Let's work on the premise that everybody's the same, and build from there. And I think that's it's a wonderful way of looking at things. And it's not to say that there's anything wrong with looking at people as being damaged or broken. It's just not necessarily helpful. It's coming from a well-meaning place. It's trying to do the right thing, but it's not necessarily helpful in the long run because people start to believe it.
Yeah, true statement.
And I think one of the other interesting things that's been occurring for me recently, I'm working with someone who's been scrabbling around trying to go, why am I doing this behavior? I don't like it. And then he would run through a list of, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not the other, I'm not. I mean, okay, well, that's fine. That's might be where you think you are at the moment. Let's just explore how human experience is created. And from that, we might see something else that shows up. And on that journey, he's gone, actually, I think based on what we've been discussing and some of the things that you've shown me, maybe I am feeling depressed at the moment. So, okay, that doesn't mean to say that you are depressed, you have depression, just you're feeling depressed at the moment. And the at the moment is the key bit. I said, how did it feel when you realised that? It goes, bizarrely calming. Interesting. Okay. And that's what we're talking to as part of this podcast. That, the whole idea about that is looking at the insights that people have that might actually look on the face of it as it pointing towards something that's unpleasant, like the realisation that maybe I'm feeling depressed at the moment. Actually, that was a really solidifying fact for that individual to be able to, okay, I feel like I know where I am now. And from there, it's like, okay, cool, what's next? What's next? And there's a sort of hunger and an energy to it. I think that's fascinating because before it's, I'm lost, I don't know what's going on, what do I pull at? And first of all, let's just slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
And from there, all good things come.
Yeah. It's so funny. We're taught it, and I'm pretty sure they taught you all, when there's contact on a mission, first thing you do is take a breath. Mm-hmm. Like, it's even when you're training on shooting your rifle, it's breathing. Mm-hmm. Like it's, and that does something that it may not seem like a lot, but that 1 second of pause and deep breath opens up the possibility of so many different solutions and opportunities within a scary circumstance. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really agree with that, and I love Dr. Pettit the way he points things out.
He's fantastic. He's fantastic. Yeah, and it's interesting, that business about being trained to have a pause. We then feel that it's our training that's creating the solution, giving us that leg up, and to a degree it is. But the truth of it is, the slowing down is happening internally and could happen without that training. It just happens to be that someone's noticed and it makes sense to drill people into doing that, and
Yes,
it then
absolutely.
becomes human nature for them.
Yeah, I love that distinction. You're absolutely right. It's somebody realized a long time ago it was
Yep.
the way it worked.
Yep.
And they incorporated it
Into the training.
into the training.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like, I know this is how it works, so it would make sense to do the repetition on it. Yeah, absolutely.
And the amusing thing in the British Army, I'm sure it probably goes broader than the infantry, but it's certainly an infantry thing. After you come up, the sort of training of coming under contact, being shot at, is you quickly react to it, take cover, and then start looking for where that fire is coming from. Once you've identified that and you've started returning fire, the commander takes himself or herself out of the battle slightly, crawls into cover, has a breather, and it used to be called, well, it still is called, the Condor moment, because in the UK there used to be a sort of little cigarello thing called a Condor, and the advert that used to be on the television was when lots of things going wrong for a certain individual, and then them stopping, opening up their little tin of Condors, taking one out, having a smoke, and all things calming, the music coming on, and it's still called that, even though that item no longer exists in people's understanding. So you've probably got 15 years worth of soldiers that have been brought up with the Condor moment, not having any idea where the Condor came from in the first place. Where is this big bird? It's just amusing how these little things sort of pop out. But it's what we're, what the army trains us to do, or the forces train us to do, because they see something in it that works, and that actually by looking for calmness in the eye of the storm actually helps others in the eye of the storm calm too. Yeah. It's not that it's infectious. It's just that, okay, so-and-so seems to be okay. I can take comfort from that. If so-and-so's running around like a headless chicken, I might be a bit worried, but actually that's also not true, because they might be looking at me and going, oh, he's quite calm at the moment. Yeah. And that ability to experience each other's feeling state in that moment, not that it's described like that, is a very true thing. It's just been disguised in various different ways, explained in different ways, and as a result, occasionally causes problems because of that, but not by design.
Not by design. You're right. You made me think of one of the first times I was ever in something that was considered a conflict. It was my first ever deployment, and we were being relieved by a new unit, and we were protecting in this one. I won't even name the country, but we were in this one country, and we were protecting an airfield. And so the airfield perimeter was probably like a 3-4 mile drive. So it would take you about a good 20 minutes to go all the way around, all the way back. But it was far away from the unit, so you'd had no supervision. So the young guys, when they get out, you're really driving the vehicles, you're off-roading, you're just, making a mockery of things, so to speak.
Having fun and being young.
Yeah, having fun being young. But this one particular time, the new unit comes in, and 2 young guys, they jump in a Hummer and they're doing their sweeps or whatever. And our lieutenant decides he wanted to kind of follow behind and see how they handle it. Now, I know what's about to happen. Like, I'm like, oh, we're about to be in trouble, because he's going to see what we really do when we're on shift way out, away from command post. And Dave, what happened was these guys were driving so fast that they came off the road, and when they were trying to come back on the road, the tires of the Hummer caught the side of the road and it flipped, and it just started rolling down the road. And probably like the second roll, the passenger, he didn't have on his seatbelt, so he came right out. So he just flew right out of the vehicle. And all I heard was, curse words from my LT. But when we get to the scene, I remember him just balling up and crying. Like, literally, Dave, he was just like, what did I do? I shouldn't have put 2 new people together. He was running through, what had just happened.
Yep.
I'm looking at this dude's bleeding from his head, the driver, this dude screaming to the top of his lungs. And oh, by the way, here come the nationals of the country we're in. And they're completely covered in their native garb. And I'm like, so I lock and load, I'm screaming, I'm trying to do everything at one time. And as I started moving and doing things, you're right, he kind of broke out of his way.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of came back into, and we were able to secure everything, get the medical attention we were needing, everything. And I'll never forget that, because it was the first time in hindsight. Now, I didn't know it then, but it was the first time that I really knew that it was inside each and every one of us,
Mm-hmm.
whether trained or not.
Yep.
Whether trained or not, it is. But again, I didn't know it then. This is hindsight. So I don't want to make it seem like I knew as a 19-year-old kid what that was. But I never forgot that, is as much of a disparaging, event this was, or circumstance for him to be crying as the lieutenant in charge, me just doing my job brought him out of it. And so, yeah, I agree that it's already in there. But again, taught so many different ways, said so many different ways that sometimes it's confusing to recognize.
Yeah, it gets lost in the noise. I remember when I was first learning the principles, I was doing my course in London with One Thought, and being from Scotland and living up here, on the first time down in London, there were about 3 or 4 people in a row after meeting them for the first time said, "Oh, you're from near Edinburgh. You must know such and such." And that went on and on and on. And I'm like, right, well, maybe I should know this person. I better go.
Yeah, exactly, right.
So that was the first task when I came back north of the border, was to track down these two lovely people and meet them for a coffee. And we did. And we were just sort of talking about bits and pieces. And I said, I've always been a fairly calm person, I think. Occasionally I lose my temper, but not very often. And I said, I think that some of that's because of the training I've had. And very gently I was asked, do you really believe that? And it completely bowled me over a little bit. I sort of sat back and went, "Ooh, yeah, okay, let's think about that. That's a story I've been telling myself that I believe. But actually, no, it's not completely true. It's a story I tell myself that helps me get out the door and do stuff. It might help me take on things that I might not, because I think I've been trained to be able to cope. So I'll just get on and do it." So there's an element of it being helpful. But then I thought, actually, I also know people that have been trained like me that have struggled at times, not all the time, but at times, when it seems innocuous what they're coming up against. No real threat or danger, but they're shocked by it, and they don't know what to do. And I've certainly been in that boat. I used to get completely freaked out, not all the time, but used to get freaked out occasionally with public speaking. No real reason why. I just get properly shaky, feel sick, not know why. Just thought I wasn't particularly good at it. But sometimes it really got me, and sometimes it didn't, and it had no bearing on the size of the group. I can remember probably one of the worst times was in front of 8 or 9 people, and one of the things that I thought was going to be the worst time was in front of 1,000. And I'm dyslexic. I stumbled over something I was reading out on a microphone to 1,000 people, and I just giggled at it and redid it and moved on. No one batted an eyelid, and I felt, okay, well, that was interesting. Normally that's a car crash, but it was fine. But it got me looking at that. Are you sure? Is that really what you believe? And I thought, actually, no, that just helps me get out the door. That helps me think I can. But I absolutely know that if a car was to crash outside the coffee shop we're in at the moment, there will be members of the public there that will roll their sleeves up and get stuck in, despite what they think about their ability to do so. And there'll be others that will be freaked out by it. And I could be freaked out by it too. So it's got nothing to do with the training necessarily. That's just a helpful crutch. It's more to do with how we're feeling in the moment and realizing that we're okay no matter what gets thrown at us. And I find that endlessly fascinating, but in equal measure, hugely deep in terms of the possibility for people that are struggling and have been told that they've got a big problem. So, okay, well, that's okay. Let's take that as a baseline and just gently test it. How true is that? Not because it's a lie. It could be the very thing that's keeping you safe at the moment. But let's just see how wobbly it is and see what freedom we can find in there that allows you to take a next step and be a bit bolder potentially, or more certain in your outlook going forwards.
Yeah, I like the way you said that, because I haven't ever thought of this, but you're right. The things that people feel trained in a sense, they're more quickly to fall into a flow and just go, which taps into resource right then. But it would be not training in it in the sense where I would think that means I can't or something, another, disbelieving thought, or another thought I would believe that wouldn't be true, rather, that would hold up my actions. Yeah, I like that. Like, the training just helped me tap in quicker. It was already there.
It's just a routine.
Yeah, routine. Absolutely. I like that.
And those routines can go against us at times, because we might feel that I've been trained, I should be able to do this, and I don't feel I can at the moment, and then sort of a feeling of inferiority or imposters.
It could trap you as well.
It can trap you. And I think the conversation that we're having is that may or may not be true. And even if you do feel that, it doesn't mean to say that you are trapped. It just means that in their thinking in that moment, that's what you're seeing, and you don't necessarily have to believe that. Like you were saying, I can hear someone walking up behind me, I'm going to check and look. The feeling is just asking you to check and look. It's not saying it's true. It's saying something feels a bit wrong now. Let's stop and look. It's like coming out of a situation, whether it's in training or operations, and going flat out in the direction you think is right, and then getting, am I going the right way? Right. I've got two options there. I either stick my head down and go, well, let's just hope and keep going and hope no one notices, or I stop and check.
Check. Oh, yeah.
Check. This doesn't feel right. Cool. Stop. Check. Are we safe? Yes, we're safe. Cool. Let's look. Am I in the right place? Yes, I am. Am I going in the right direction? Almost. Brilliant. Let's adjust. Off we go again. And that the fear of getting it wrong and being ridiculed sometimes means that people keep ploughing on regardless, or feeling completely, I've got this, I'm the boss, I'm in charge, and of course I'm right. Well, that's setting us up for a fall too. And that's fascinating. If we get the urge to check, there's no wrong in taking that check pace and having a look and going, oh yeah, no, I'm good. Great, thank you. Let's crack on then.
I learned that the hard way, Dave.
Yeah, haven't we all?
We were on a deployment training once, and we were at it was a state here, Nevada, and it's very desert ridden. Like, it looks pretty much identical to the terrain we were about to be deployed to. And so they had it had to be a couple hundred acres of land, but it's all fenced. So you're in a closed military facility, but it doesn't feel that way. Yep. And so there's a down aircraft, there's a down helicopter, there's a few little weapon cache points they had set up and stuff. And you had to navigate to those points. All teams start out at the exact same moment. Get to your destination, do your mission, get back. My team, we the last one to come back, because I want to check. I know where I'm going, and I'm the oldest, and there's kids, and this, and it was just, we had to literally just sit down and take a break. We were so exhausted. It was supposed to be a quick, like 2-hour mission back. I think we was out there like 5-6 hours, man. Like, just because I wasn't willing to listen. And it was actually the only young lady I had on my squad. And she was just like, for fuck's sake, Sergeant Cook, can we just check? And I was like, yeah, let's do that, and found out we was a few ticks off, which, that's the difference in miles over time. So, yeah, I learned that the hard way, man.
But, even in that state of not being where you should be, you were equipped with all, not only the physical resource in terms of maps and compasses, but also the wherewithal to be able to interpret that and get back on track. So it doesn't matter if we feel lost at any particular moment in time. We have the resources internally to be able to answer that question and help ourselves in that moment, even if it's saying, actually, I could do with some help right now.
Yeah.
Cool.
Locating yourself. Absolutely.
Jump on the phone. Pick it up, speak to someone, because we're never as alone as we think we are. Even if that's reaching out to, to a complete stranger. Just the process, the thinking behind that can get in the way of doing it. Oh no, I don't want to bother them. They're too busy. We'll create all kinds of excuses for why we wouldn't. But at the same time, if someone was in the opposite position, we'd absolutely be there for them if they were to ask. Yeah. Whatever we're doing, we'd probably put it down and go, okay, cool, let's see what I can do. And that ability to connect is something that the principles points to in terms of being able to explain how that works. But equally, you don't need to know it. You don't have to understand it. It's built into every single one of us. And we've all had moments where we've just clicked with someone that we've never met before. We might not even know their name. We just had a wonderful conversation with them. Yep. And thought, wow, that was amazing. And what's going on there? Neither of the people in the conversation had an ego flowing. They were just interested in each other and saw each other as another human being that had value on the planet. And that's really cool, because then it doesn't matter what you're wearing, what you look like, what your job title is, any of that. Yeah. Any of that. You don't even need to speak the same language to connect with someone and go, are you okay? And get the message across and really go, I trust you that you're here to help. You can just read that in each other.
You can feel it. Yeah. You can feel it.
And equally, you can feel malicious intent as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's an amazing thing. It's built into every single one of us, and it's fascinating to see how we get lost from that, or the barriers that we put in place that stop us being able to tap into that, because we're pretending to be something that we're not, and therefore we're not as available to connect to someone else, and we therefore think everybody else is standoffish. And then we're probably doing the same thing, or they're bumping up against the shield that you've put up. And they're going, okay, that's not worth trying. I'm not going to push that.
Not going to push that one. Man. This experience is one, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's wonderful.
I do. I enjoy it, yeah.
And it's bizarrely being prepared to be vulnerable with others and just be yourself. Yeah. That's the most disarming thing for other people. No matter how prickly they might be, you just rock up and say, hi, how you doing? Oh, okay, no worries. Do you want a cup of tea? Do you want to chat? Nothing on it. Let's, and people go, that's not, normally people go walk off in the other direction when I'm bristly, but you're different. And that difference isn't any different really. It's just opening a door to curiosity and wonder in the person that's being all protective and standoffish. So cool. Yeah. I see that. That's fine. I understand where you're coming from. You be you, I'll be me, and I completely respect you for the barriers that you're putting up. But I'm still going to be me and have a cup of tea with you if you want it, and if you don't, that's fine.
Yeah, and that's what I was alluding to at the beginning of seeing underneath what that means.
Yeah,
that barrier means nothing about me. You set that barrier up because you think it's protecting you. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it,
and that's cool. Yeah. That's cool. You hang on to it for as long as you like. It's like a child and a safety blanket. As long as you think that that's important to you, you're going to hang on to it until you're comfortable enough that you put it down, and then when you remember that you haven't got it, then you freak out and go and try and find it.
Yeah.
But in the intervening period between having it, feeling safe, and losing it and forgetting about it, in that forgotten moment, we are safe as houses. It's when we think we haven't got the safety net there that we start freaking ourselves out.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
I love that. Very much so. Very much.
And it's lovely to see and speak to so many different people that are doing different things in different ways, all with the same intent of trying to help people slow down, gather themselves, realize that they are more than enough in the moment for anything, no matter what their mind is saying to them in that moment.
Yeah.
And the possibilities of that are endless. And so yeah, it's it's exciting just having chats and seeing where people are, what they're doing, and how that plays out. And I'm sure you're seeing that exactly the same from your perspective on your side of the pond.
Yeah. No, I love it because it's kind of like if we're in I'm a huge basketball fan. We just finished college basketball championships over here, and now we're getting ready for the professional basketball. And I've been to a few games, and it's actually very funny to watch when a player is about to shoot free throws, so to speak, right? Half of the crowd is screaming, miss it. The other half of the crowd, or whatever the demographic is per fan each side, is screaming, one to make it, one to get. And it's so funny how, as the player miss or hit, how the fans find kind of like this relaxing and, oh yeah, I caused that to happen type thing, like
that was me. I was the one that tipped that.
Yeah, and so that made me laugh. But it's kind of like that in the sense where if I'm shooting a free throw and everybody in this place is screaming, I can't make it, that doesn't mean I can't make it. That just means they're screaming, I can't make it.
Yeah. That's what they're hoping for.
That's what they're hoping. And if I pay a lot of attention to that, I'm probably going to forget the mechanics of shooting and not make it. But if I don't believe that, I'm going to follow through on the mechanics and it'll be left up to that.
Yep.
I'm going to trust the system, so to speak.
Yep.
I'm going to take my 3 bounces. I'm going to do my spin. I'm going to take my deep breath, release at the top, and see what happens.
Yeah.
But it is definitely not because the house is screaming.
Yeah.
It ain't got nothing to do with it, you know?
Yeah. Other than potentially set some thoughts off in my head, which was going to disturb my flow. And there we are back in the same loop of our experiences being brought to us by our thinking in the moment, and our ability to perform is being brought to us by our thinking in the moment or not. We could be completely caught up in the thinking of it and still manage to score. There's I think I mentioned it in another of these calls, but there was a young Scottish rugby player who his team played in the evening, so he'd have a ritual that started at breakfast time, and as long as he got through his ritual, he'd be set to play in the evening. And if anything went wrong in that, it probably meant he wasn't going to play well, and 9 times out of 10 he didn't play well, and there he goes, well, there you go, I've got to get the ritual right.
Got to get the ritual.
And one day the ritual was fine, and he had the first touch he had of the game went wrong, and someone scored, and that was it. His thinking went through the floor. He doesn't remember the rest of the game, but other than, I'm going to be rubbish, it's going to be a nightmare, I'm going to get subbed off. Got to the end of the match, he was voted man of the match. No recollection of how he played at all, but everybody else saw him playing out of his skin despite what was going on in his mind. And it's just fascinating where our minds can take us at times, that have no bearing on the reality of what's physically happening in the moment, and vice versa. And I think again, that's where all the hope lies, is in the fact that our thinking has no real bearing on the reality of what's going on for us. It's just an opportunity to check, and that's it.
Yeah, I love that story on the performance, because I've gotten a chance to talk to a few who are 3 principal practitioners, and but who performed at a high level, like at their country national level.
Yep.
One, I love her. I call her coach. Like, not just because she's a coach, but like that's just her. Denise Holland. And she was a national handball champion, and all that. But she talks about performance in a way. Matt and Abdul, like, they really talk about how that thinking going through the floor affects the performance, or no thinking and performance just performs. So yeah, I really love that conversation around our thoughts and performance, and how the relationship between the two. I really enjoy that dance.
And it's something that virtually everybody's got an opinion on, because there is a sport that they are interested in to a degree, and they will know where people have been caught, and they've been physically able to see them caught in their thinking and thinking themselves out of the game, or getting tense and therefore not going to be in the flow for being able to perform to the best of their abilities, because the situation has got into their thinking. It's not the situation ever; it's their thinking about it that's got
about
all
the
caught up.
situation.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating because externally we can see that and we can talk about it. When we're in it, it's more difficult to see, but it's not impossible. And we can also see the exceptions, or what seem to be the exceptions, the superhumans that just seem to, no matter how the point goes, just go, yep, that one didn't work. What's the next one? And you're a bit of a machine. How does that work? It's just they know that point is dead and gone. They can't do anything about it. What's the next one? And that's in all of us. We think, there's a drive for perfectionism in everything that we do, and there's nothing wrong in striving for it, but knowing that it's not possible all the time is a really good thing. Again, just thinking about athletics, every athlete has a personal best, their record, and they're constantly trying to beat it. And the vast majority of the time, they're failing at beating their personal best, because it's, by dint of the fact it was their personal best, it was quite a feat to get there. Well, they don't tend to beat themselves up over that. They get excited when they do knock it down, knock an extra few seconds off it, or hundredths of seconds off it. But they don't hold themselves to account in a way that says, "Oh, well, I failed today. I'm just going to hang my trainers up." They just go, "Okay, cool. What can I do next? What can I do better next time? How can I be more prepared physically and mentally for that?" And they don't get caught up in the fact that they haven't performed at the level that they strived to in that moment.
It's like the way that some games are set up. Like, basketball is set up, you're going to miss shots. Period. That's how it's set up. Like, you're going to miss shots. Like, and it's going to happen. And it's like, as long as I'm okay with that part, or in football, you're going to get tackled. Cool. If I'm okay with that part, then this is a game again. If I think I don't supposed to be tackled, though. If I think I don't supposed to miss shots.
Or I'm better than and I shouldn't.
Then we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
It's really exciting to sort of see how that all plays out. And obviously not just in areas of the world or people's lives that are leisurely in that sense, or around having fun, that it crosses over into everything that we do. So the things that we are most invested in, like our families or our jobs, or even if life is in danger, in all of those cases we have the capacity to thrive. And I think that's, it's not about superhumans being in those positions and being able to turn the tide. It might look like that at times. It might feel like that at times, but it's not true. It's just that those particular individuals in that moment weren't caught up in their thinking. And therefore it's not then about seeing them as amazing, special people that we need to hold in high esteem and rally round and make sure that we've always got a few of those floating around in our back pocket because they're quite handy. It's knowing that every single person has that capacity. And then all of a sudden, the pressure's off for everybody. So we've all got this. We'll be fine.
I agree. I really do.
Now, just before we close, I know you've got a program that's just about to start that is looking more at the traumatic end of people's experience in terms of trying to help them see that they're designed for thrive. I just wondered if there's anything you wanted to tell us about that.
So what happened was I started helping with trauma, and I was holding these groups, and I realized that the groups had kind of two main functions. And so one was that some people were coming to deal with their own traumatic experience, and some were coming to learn how to help others deal with it. And so that kind of made me split the two groups. One became a support-only group for those currently experiencing, but the program, I call it the Advocate Program. I partnered with MindFit Life Coaching out of South Africa, Rob and Sharon Castle. And what we've done is created a trauma advocate program, and where we go through all of those things that just makes it easy to facilitate healing with somebody moving past a traumatic experience. You can find the information on my website at imrobcook.com, or you could go to mindfitlifecoaching.com. Again, that's Rob and Sharon Castle out of South Africa, but it's a 6-week program that's just looking at it from the eyes of the traumatic experience. Like, how do I trust again? You know, what do I really mean when I say safe? Mm-hmm. How do I deal with like the myths and the things that aren't true about healing? You know, what's a good day, what's a bad day type thing. Mm-hmm. So we just talked through those, man. And I found it to be, I'm ending one now. We start the other one on April 19th. But I found it to be very, very helpful for those who are supporting people going through trauma.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Super easy, man. Again, I love it. I love you, man. This has been so fun.
It has been fun. It has been fun. I'm not quite sure how the time zipped by, but it's been lovely to catch up, Rob. It's great to hear what you're up to, and thank you for your time and energy today, especially as it's only just coming past breakfast time for you. So thank you very much. Oh
yeah, I'm usually up though, man. I'm usually up to get my gym out the way, you know, to stay in the game. But yeah, I wasn't gonna miss the chance to hang out with you, bro.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, Dave.
Thank you for joining us today. If you've enjoyed the conversation, feel free to subscribe and join me and my new guest next time. If you're interested in the work I'm doing, or you think I can be of service to you or your organisation, please email dave@simplicityofmind.co.uk. Remember, see if you can find time to slow down and reflect. Those simple ideas might be worth listening to. Take care, and I hope you can join me in a couple of weeks.